Welcome back to Roosevelt Live Season 2. Today's topic is going to be about the $578 million school that was built and open and operating out of California. Now, this happened a few weeks ago, obviously, but we've been down because of the season start back up, so I'm just not getting an opportunity to talk about it, so I'm not really behind, but I am behind, if you know what I mean. But I do have a couple of things about the school that I was concerned, even though I know it's in California, but it also struck my attention that when you build a $500 million school, when in California the dropout rate was 50%, and teachers were being laid off and pay is being cut, and they could have built several schools for that amount of money. And the school is like a Taj Mahal. I mean, the school has parquet flooring, it has TVs in the floor, all kinds of crazy stuff. The teachers' lounge looked like something that you would see out of some major five-star hotel. And I'm just wondering, why do they think that building all this stuff and paying all this money is going to make the children learn anything? You're not going to learn anything unless you know something to learn or being taught by the right people. And no matter how much money you spend on a school, kids might want to go there because it might look like a nice looking school. But the problem is you build one school for $500 million. How much are you going to pay for the next school and the next school and the next school? And I know underneath Governor Schwarzenegger, California was broke. They didn't have any money. They was just downright broke over there. Oakland was said they were laid off several police officers, that they might even lay off more police officers, even though that's in Oakland versus the LA area, but it's still a part of California. And the governor's controlling the entire state. So I don't know how. I know they said they had a voucher to do this, and they agreed to it. But somebody over there don't have good sense, because anybody that spends $500 million, to be so precise, $578 million on one school, and I think they said house like 4,200. I can't remember the exact number of students that will be going there. And I think I remember there was grades. I don't know if it says 1 through 12 or kindergarten through 12th grade. I haven't seen any schools like that around the United States where you housing all children in one school. If that's the case, I guess that brings a lot of children underneath one roof. I don't know how that really works very well. If you got young kids going to school, I think they will be influenced by older kids, and I don't know if they separated to a degree where they can't actually get around each other. I'm not sure. I don't know if I would want my kid to go to a school that was K through first grade through 12th grade. I'm not sure. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. But what I do know is that I believe, in my opinion, this is a show about opinions, that there's too much money to pay for one school. That money could have been added in to first of all, that kind of money could have helped keep those police officers on duty in Oakland. That money could have went toward building more than one school. That money could have went toward hiring and paying teachers a higher salary based on their qualifications, so the high school dropout rate would go down and not keep going up. I don't know. It's no way that school is going to help anybody, because if the same people that was teaching those kids, this is not going to do any good. And I don't want to blame the teachers. I don't want to say that the teachers are the reason why that dropout rate is at 50%, because I think most of your problems start at home, not at school. The teachers are there to teach. They're not the parents or the students. They're there to teach those students. And if those students are out of control when they get there, those teachers can't really do anything about it. There's no corporal punishment in schools, pretty much anywhere anymore. So you can't do that. People say, oh, you need to go to jail, or, it's child abuse, this and that and the other. Everybody got their own opinion about that, but I can say one thing. I'm not a child abuser. I'm not a woman abuser, but my mother lit my behind up when I was a kid, when I did things I shouldn't have done. And my mother and father was right there, and even though my mother was a disciplinary, and I am not a criminal. I've never been behind any bars other than burglar bars keep people away from me. And I don't think that someone's getting a structured whooping is a crime. Even though I know there's a whole bunch of people that think it's absolutely ridiculous and it's terrible and it's teaching violence and all this other stuff. But I don't buy into that. I think obviously if you're beating your kids about the head, or you're kicking them and throwing them down and punching them in the face, that's something totally different. And I'm not talking about someone's getting popped on their behind for doing something they don't have any business, or somebody getting slapped on their hand. I don't see why that should be considered any type of abuse, because I think that's crazy. I think more people do it and admitting to it, and they're claiming that they're not, and this time out, and all you have to do is talk to your kids. Yeah, you talk to those kids, but just because you're talking to them don't mean they're going to do what you want. But all this stuff starts at home, not at the schools. If you sending your kids to school because you think that the teacher's going to be to control them, those teachers can't control those kids that got filthy mouths, no respect, because like I've always said before in other segments, if you have no fear, then you have no respect. because they run hand in hand. So I think California could have did something a lot better, and I hope that this don't become a trend that other states start spending this kind of money on schools that have all these little fancy bells and whistles, because it's not necessary to learn. If you think back to the old days, kids learned in little bitty schoolhouses that looked like little churches, where there was no necessarily no AC or no fan or anything else, and they learned in those old schoolhouses. They learned they reading, writing, and arithmetic. And if we stop trying to teach subjects that are not even important to a way of life, maybe these kids will learn something, and they go back to the basics, things they need to know about school, and stop trying to teach them how to bake some cookies, and stop trying to bring condoms into schools when they're 5 years old, and trying to teach all these subjects that's not necessary, and teach the reading and writing and arithmetic that they're going to need to know to move forward in life. How many people got a job based on whether Columbus discovered America or not? You're not going to go get a job based on that, because somebody's going to ask that question. But when they are asking you a question you can't articulate, you don't know what they're saying, you can't form a regular sentence because you don't know what's going on, because you were busy worried about something that's going to be absolutely irrelevant when you get out of school. So we have to step it up here in America. It's not just California. It's all over America where the school systems are just falling apart. I'm here in Florida, and I know I've been reading in the last several months that the FCAT scores here was out of control. It was going down. Nobody knows why. There was a while when the governor was... people was trying to get the governor to pass some type of legislation saying that the schools, the teachers' pay was going to be attached to the grades in school. That's insane. How are you going to make somebody do their work? If they leave that classroom and they go home and they don't have the right parenting, or that parent or parents may be working one job or two jobs trying to keep a roof over their head, maybe don't have time to watch them all day long, how can the teacher be responsible for that? They can't be responsible if little Johnny or little Susie don't do their homework, or they don't study for their test. It's preposterous to try to attach someone's salary to someone's grades. Now, if that person was living with the teacher 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they had complete control over them, just maybe in that fantasy world, I could see that. But in reality, I can't see it, can't comprehend it, and bottom line is it doesn't make any sense. All I'm saying that California, as in other states, need to concentrate on better education and less this theatrics where you're building all this fancy stuff and having these kids out of these fancy movie theaters and all this artwork up in the hallways and all this stuff. That stuff is not going to do anything for them. They're not learning anything. You need to learn. You go to school to learn. You don't go to school to play basketball. You don't go to school to play football. You do those things, but these things are secondary. You're not going to get a job based on, at least unless you're an athlete and you're going out to play football, but you're not going to get a job in a corporate office because you played football in high school. You're not going to get a job at the bank because you were on the chess team. So you got to understand that these things, I know people say, oh, they need them and this is good for them, but I don't understand, because, 50, 60 years ago, hey, I wasn't around 50, 60 years ago, but I know one thing, and even further back than that, kids did get a decent education, and they didn't have all these extracurricular things that they do now. They wasn't doing them then, okay? I saw the other day that people were debating whether or not they should allow cell phones in school. And they were saying, well, just allow them in there, because if you don't allow them in there, then they will have all these problems. Now, listen, if you don't want cell phones in the school, then you make a rule there's no cell phones in school. You don't have to keep saying, well, we're going to let them have it because it's too hard to try to keep them not having it. If it's a rule, it's a rule. You bring your cell phone to school, put it in your locker. This stuff about needing a cell phone because I got to talk to my kids got to call home. What did the kids do when there were no cell phones? You tell me. There was no cell phones out there. How did they call home? Hey, guess what they used? I know those kids don't understand it. It used to be a thing called a pay phone. That's that little box thing outside a lot of the convenience stores. They're not out there anymore, but they used to be out there on the corner. Some of them even had a little booth around them. They were pay phones. If you don't use the pay phone, go into the library of the school, use the school phone. But you do not have to have cell phones in school. It's not a necessity. It's just that a lot of young people, they didn't grew up on these cell phones. They don't even realize that there was a time when there was no cell phones. My son's going on 19 years old. He probably don't even realize that there was a time there wasn't any cell phones around. He probably didn't realize there was a time when there was no iPods around. He doesn't know because the technology is changing so rapidly until kids today don't even realize that there was a time and this stuff didn't even exist. But in their lifetime, it's been here the whole time. So they think it's been in society all along. They don't have a clue. If you asked them what a rotary phone was, they probably pass out. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. If you told them that the TV used to go off at midnight and the national anthem started playing, they'd probably bust out laughing and say, no way. TV stays on 24/7. It does now, but it didn't used to. And that's what I'm saying. All this is tied into one, even though I know it maybe seems like I'm digressing because I started talking about the LA and the school and the amount of money that was spent, but it all runs together. The schools are only there to teach your kids. They're not there to be their mothers and their fathers. They're not there to teach them morals. They need to get out of the condom teaching and the same-sex teaching and all this other stuff they're teaching, and allow them to learn. Teach Johnny how to read. Teach him how to spell. Teach Jane how to count. That kind of stuff. Things that are going to be needed as they move forward in life.